definitely need a little bit of this. Like the way it fades in.
Fade in, reverb, all that.
Yeah, you don't want to jar the eardrums, right?
Yeah. You don't. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. Some would say my nasally drone is jarring to their eardrums. That's right. It's orange blue today. Talking Denver Broncos, Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason here to discuss what's going on at the running back position, because Mace, right now it's nothing. I'm looking at all these pro days that are going on. I'm watching these running backs that are talking to media, and you're getting team interest and who they're meeting with and top 30 visits. The Broncos don't have any of that yet. Is that a surprise to you at all?
No, I don't think so. Could they use running back? Yes, but it's not as urgent a need as quarterback. Or I'd say even though you have Malcolm Roach in there, still defensive interior. And also last year with Joel McLaughlin as a situational back, you found out that you can get value even going into the undrafted pool. It's more the fact that you feel like you can find answers deeper and that maybe you can use your visits or your top 30 visits and other things on other positions right now. I'm sure the Broncos will add a running back or two, probably from the undrafted pool. Again, I wouldn't mind seeing Braylon Allen, no doubt. I just don't know if they have the draft capital at this point, considering other needs on the roster, to be able to make that investment.
We like to talk realistically on this show, although I'm emotional and opinionated, Mace, so that's a problem sometimes for me. But in loving Javonte Williams, as much as I love Javonte Williams, I do not think he will ever be the same. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong. And he bounces back and he looks better than he did as a rookie. But after that major knee injury, seeing what he looked like last year, which was not good, I just don't know what's left there to further get back. But where do you stand on that situation?
I mean, I always say hope is not a strategy. I mean, I think you do hope that you can get more from him. But at the same time, even though you were frustrated by the lack of explosive capability that he had, if Jaleel McLaughlin can improve just enough as a blocker to be an obstruction, he'll get more playing time. That will help the equation. Samaje Perine is still on the Broncos. You saw what he could do, particularly in close and late situations. Is he a bell cow back? No. But can he succeed and flourish situationally? Yeah. So when you look at the Broncos right now, if you say the house is on fire, or actually it's more like to say like a castle is on fire, right? Because the house, it's going to get everywhere. If it's a castle, if it's like Windsor Castle burning in 1992, yeah, it can be a huge conflagration, but it's big enough to where there are certain parts that are going to be relatively unscathed and you have to focus elsewhere. The castle isn't burning at running back. The castle is burning at quarterback. You can argue that the castle is burning at tight end.
Yes.
Perhaps edge if you're trying to find the alpha in the group when you've got like some good number twos and rotationals, but it's like a pitching rotation that doesn't have an ace. You've got number two as your number one, basically, and a three is a two, and a three is a three, and a three is a four. You've got good depth, but you don't have the person to top that. There are a lot of other areas that just are of more pressing need than running back right now, especially when, even with Javonte Williams not having the explosion last year, you're able to piece together something, and you're hoping and you're expecting more from Jaleel McLaughlin. Not hoping for more. I think you're expecting more from McLaughlin.
Expecting more. I like that. I like expecting things from myself and from others, and certainly from the Denver Broncos. But Mace, this goes back to our Mike Clay conversation that we had the other day on OBT, which is a BFD. With a rookie quarterback, don't you need like this flurry of backs? We always talk about waves, right? George Payton's talked about waves in terms of edge rushers. Well, with a rookie quarterback, you kind of need waves of running backs to keep them fresh. You know, Steelers years ago had Willie Parker and Jerome Bettis in two different styles. Okay, so you have that with Jaleel and Javonte, provided that Javonte stays healthy. but I still wouldn't mind. You said pick up a couple of maybe undrafted. I agree with you, but a drafted guy, a third round guy, a Braylon Allen guy, like, this would be pretty nice as well. And I think I said Jalen Smith the other day, Jalen Wright, the Tennessee, Alvin Kamara, like back. Like, you've got some options in this draft. And so far in these pro days, I'll just bring up a couple for everybody right now. Audric Estime, the Notre Dame kid, Broncos not showing interest. Jonathan Brooks, who says he'll be medically cleared to start training camp, the Texas running back, no interest. Dallas is showing interest there. So it's like, okay, I wouldn't mind the Broncos nosing around a couple of these guys.
Just because there's not over interest, though, Cecil, doesn't mean there isn't interest. That's another thing. Just because we don't know that they haven't had contact, at least on an extensive basis, it doesn't mean the Broncos haven't reached out and had conversations at some point. There haven't been, that hasn't happened, at least informally, and that due diligence hasn't been done. That's another thing to kind of think about is, it's entirely possible that some of the contact is going on very quietly rather than something that's going to be overt and come out in the wash over the next few weeks. So that's why, it's sort of a mushy answer, but at the same time, it's probably an accurate one. I don't think they're ignoring the running back position, but at the same time, are there areas of more pressing need? Yes, there simply are at this point.
Yeah, at this point there are, and we're going to have to go back through the archives because we have so much collection of stuff about what we gathered from the Combine, from the Shrine Bowl, but I want to take you back to Texas, Mace. We got to get back to Texas. Such great food, great times down there in Frisco. We saw Blake Watson from Memphis, and if there's one thing I know about Memphis running backs, they seem to be everywhere in the league. You may not think of it, but like Memphis running backs are around. So Blake Watson is there, and we're talking undrafted guys, late round guys. Like Watson, I'm taking a flyer on. I know a lot of scouts that really like his game. You and I enjoyed talking to him, and we'll bring some of that footage back from the Shrine Bowl because maybe that's a guy the Broncos would be targeting.
Also, Memphis running backs are versatile.
What's Sean Payton like?
Versatile backs, exactly. See,
yep.
Hey, you and I wanted to take a flyer on Antonio Gibson in free agency, right? I wanted the Broncos to draft Antonio Gibson a few years ago.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a hallmark of the Memphis running backs, though, is you got to do multiple things. You're not a specialist down there. Look, it was one of the things that add another layer of intrigue to Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, beyond the fact that he's young. And so there's a lot of tread on those tires. He went to college early out of high school. He's a dominant running back at the age of 17 going there. So you're talking about a 20-year-old back, a lot of tread left on the tires. And by the way, they worked with him on the pass catching area of his game last year. Maybe it wasn't what he did best, but you're developing another tool on your belt that you can rely on. And again, versatility. If you're going to be a Sean Payton back, you got to be able to block, you got to be able to carry the ball, you got to be able to catch the ball. The more of those that you can do well, the more you're going to play. It's why they're working so much with Jewell McClaughlin on the blocking. They want to use him more, but until he becomes at least an obstruction in pass protection, they know they can't do that. That's why they've worked with him. It's his point of emphasis. How well he does in terms of learning that part of the game, being able to pick up blitzes, is going to determine whether he plays more next year, more than anything he does actually with the football.
I love throwing darts at freaks, and that's why Jalen Wright comes up to me, because he's a home run hitter. He's not quite Kamara. People will helmet scout a little bit, so he's not Kamara. Kamara's very special, but just that freakish speed and a guy that can take it the distance. And for me, someone mentioned, I think it was Mark in the chat room, like Blake Corum, like, okay, yeah. Not as freaky, though, as a guy like Wright. And for me, it's the varying styles. That's why I hope Jaleel gets it. I hope Jaleel gets the pass blocking because he has such a variant style. Like, it's so different. And from a defensive standpoint, you're used to the blunt force trauma that you get with Javonte. And all of a sudden, here's Jaleel, and it's like a lightning strike right past you. You don't even know it.
Yeah. And honestly, last year, the ability of Jaleel to have the lightning strike, which he showed most prominently in Chicago and then some bursts thereafter, that ability was one of the two things in the offense that if you were a defense, you were keying on. I mean, Marvin Mims Jr., Jaleel McLaughlin, those guys are game breakers. When they went onto the field, defenses took note. You and I talked, of course, about how for a bunch of games, 70% of the time, Jaleel McLaughlin was on the field. He got the football. And with that knowledge, teams keyed on him. That was a big part of why he wasn't as effective for the middle of the season stretch before he really cranked it up again when he started to play more and thus wasn't a tell. But McLaughlin has some, for a defensive perspective, McLaughlin has some scary ability that you have to account for when he's on the field.
Yeah, there's a pucker factor when it comes to Jaleel McLaughlin if you're a defender when he's on the field, that's for sure. Chat room bringing up Samaje Perine. Mace, maybe it's just me. Not that I'm overlooking Samaje, and I certainly applauded the move last year to get him. But is he just kind of what he is now? I wanted to see him get more touches. I'm not going to say they didn't trust him, but it's just like the usage of Samaje was very confusing almost. It was almost maybe opposite of what it should be. He was a closer for this team, so that's a good thing. But is there a little bit more? Is the veteran just kind of what he is right now? I'm more the latter, and I understand I could be totally wrong because, again, I was excited about him last year. I'm not real excited about him this year.
I mean, you were more excited about him last year than I was.
Certainly, yeah.
I thought, okay, nice depth, nothing spectacular. It is interesting to look at just his averages. Now, granted, he's out there late. So when you are out there in a close and late situation, a comeback situation, defenses are dropping back a little bit, conceding stuff underneath. So I'll tell you right now that Samaje Perine averaged 4.5 yards per carry, 9.1 yards per catch. Yards per catch figure, the best of his career. Yards per carry figure, tied for the second best of his career with 2021, only trailing his work in the COVID year with the Bengals. But you have to look at what they were facing defensively. And so if you are seeing dime looks, more prevent type looks to take away the big play, of course there's going to be more room for Samaje Perine to operate, which is why you were talking about 9.1 yards per catch. On 50 catches, that's another thing, Cecil. He had 50 receptions last year.
Yeah. That would shock a lot of people if you just said, who had 50 catches and nobody remembers?
Samaje Perine.
Samaje Perine, yeah.
Samaje Perine ranked third on the team. By the way, in terms of receptions, Broncos leaders were Courtland Sutton, 59, Jerry Jeudy, since traded in a Twitter beef now with Mark Schlereth, 54, Samaje Perine, 50, Javonte Williams, 47, Jaleel McLaughlin, 31. You know what else? You see that? 3 of the top 5 running backs.
Yep, a lot of passes out of the backfield. So get it to him cleaner, Bo Nix, and you'll have more dynamicism. I think I got that right from the running back position.
Dynamism is, I think, what you'd prefer. Yeah, there was a superfluous syllable in there that made it kind of awkward.
Right. I'm kind of awkward anyway. It's Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason, OBT, that BFD. We got Clayton in the chat room saying smash the like button and the share. Yeah, that's how you help us out. We appreciate that. But Mace, we're getting ready for the owners meetings, and they've got conference calls for us. They're getting the schedule of all the events next week. But there's some important decisions coming up for this league that are fascinating for football fans out there.
Yeah, nothing more fascinating, I think, than the proposed changes on kickoffs. Of course, we're going to talk about the alterations in the hip drop tackle rule that are coming into play. A little disappointed that they continue to have delay of game be objective rather than subjective. I still say what they should do is they should take every stadium, have the play clocks have tenths of a second, like the shot clock in the NBA, and then when it hits 0, light up, rather than every year this being subject to referee discretion. I don't get it. Don't make something objective that can be subjective, right?
Right.
Okay. We have enough, there's enough gray area in life without adding to that. So that's my rant. I'm going to step away from that. But kickoffs, okay. I mean, we're talking about a radical change in kickoffs. If you've watched the XFL and you see the kickoff team and the receiving team lining up the majority of their players in a zone away from where the kickoff takes place, that's what you're looking at right now. You're going to have the kicking team players lined up at the receiving team's 40, other than the kicker, of course. The kickoff will be from the same spot. The receiving team, 9 of the players will be up at the 35, the other 2 back to kick. And then the whole other thing is target zone. There's the target zone between the 20 and the goal line. If you put the kickoff into the end zone on the fly or out of the end zone, and was a touchback, in either of those cases, the ball's going to come to the 35-yard line. They're trying to encourage returns in a safer manner, because here's something Rich McKay, the competition committee, said that was interesting. He said that even though they have changed kickoff rules and there are fewer returns than there ever have been, the injury rate on kickoffs remains the same, which is why we're talking. And it's because of the running start involved with kickoff coverage, which is why now you're going to they're starting from the 40 on one side for one team, 35 on the other. So there's only that 5-yard run up before you start seeing contact. That is a key thing. And then obviously you can't get as much speed getting downfield than you could otherwise.
Right. Rich McKay spoke on some of the changes. Mace, you want to roll that beautiful bean footage?
Let's go for it.
We've taken too much out of the game. It's too exciting of a play. And so we use that phrase, we don't want to lose the foot from the game. But I also think we don't want to lose special teams. I think special teams have been a part of our game for a long time, an exciting part of our game. And it feels like special teams, especially when it comes to the kickoff, has been away for a little while, but it really hasn't. It's much more of a recent effect. But that line of demarcation in 2010 is when all of a sudden those touchbacks started to go up. This year in the Super Bowl, you had 13 kicks, 13 kickoffs, all touchbacks. 12 of them the ball did not land in the field of play or the end zone. It was out of the back line. So to us, this was the time.
It was the time to make the moves. In the NFL, unlike other sports, Mace, here's our baseball talk. They'll change. I don't care about changing rules. Like, there's not the history involved with the numbers, right? There is in baseball or even in basketball at times. In the NFL, what's going to work now? Let's change it.
Yeah, Rich McKay's estimate is that changing the kickoffs will result in average field position change of 3 to 5 yards per possession. Further upfield means more scoring. And this is another thing. Now, we can debate whether the NFL is truly all in on safety. I think they send mixed messages, okay? For example, they cut overtime from 15 minutes in the regular season to 10. All about player safety, right? Oh, yeah, fewer snaps, fewer hits accumulating, blah, blah, blah. If that was your concern, why do you need overtime in the regular season at all? You had ties galore in the NFL for the first 54 seasons of the existence. If the goal is less accumulation of hits, then fine. Just say, if it's tied at the end of regulation, it's tied in regular season. That's it, right? So that's what I mean by a mixed message. But the other thing is, he also said at one point, it's not just about safety, it's about scoring. Because scoring has dropped by a little over 6 points per game combined by both teams since that COVID year. COVID year was 49.6 points per game. Now, granted, that was an outlier, but you're still talking about 6 fewer points per game combined. I mean, that's basically a touchdown without the PAT, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And also, I'll say this for the Broncos and Sean Payton. Their points went up. NFL scoring went down last year. So, that's another thing worth noting. But the NFL does want more scoring, does want more points. And I know it's going to frustrate some fans that say, okay, all the rules changes about offense. Well, in this case, it's not about offense. It's about having more points on the board. You're just talking about it coming from special teams and also just changing, what they feel is also changing where drives are going to start a little bit as well. So I don't, yeah. But here's the thing. Kickoffs, they've become an excuse for people to spend another 30 seconds in the bathroom, another 30 seconds in the kitchen. They want to bring people back. He made the point that during the Super Bowl, not only were all the kickoffs, all the kickoffs touchbacks, McKay said 12 of 13 kickoffs went out of the end zone. It's become too easy. And so you're telling the kickers, okay, you can't mash it. You have to actually have to place it. It's going to make things a lot more interesting.
And more skill involved in that than simply mashing it and then everyone's still at the bathroom or getting that snack. That is Orange and Blue today. Mace, before we wrap, as I know you got to run, I appreciate you very much. 1, hair's on point.
Thank
2,
you.
That place of business where you're at, they must love you because they're like, every day this guy shows up and he does this show and it's really fun.
That's nobody's said anything. Nobody's complained.
That's good.
But next is Catch a Flight. It'll be a considerably quieter spot tomorrow, probably, from which I'll be doing the show in Florida before we find a spot in Orlando. I'm guessing we're going to find a spot outside in Orlando, soak up the sun a little bit.
Yeah.
Get some palm trees. I'm big on location, atmosphere, right? It's the atmosphere and the attitude, as they say, tchotchkes.
I'm going to take my R2-D2 swim trunks. We might have a video about that. Anyway, he's Mace, I'm Cease, and yeah.
Are you sure? Are you sure you should do that?
I'm okay. I was running with my shirt off the other day around Roxborough because I'm like, I got this body. I got to show it off. We got to show it off by doing our YouTube thing. Mace, how can they help us out?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss a vid.
We were on time yesterday. It didn't seem like it because of the delay when we were live, but we were on time on the playback. Yes, I watched Orange and Blue today. And we comment on the comments. So comment down below. Mason and I will jump into the comments. We would just appreciate everyone. He's Mace. I'm Cease. OBT's a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty, baby.